So guys, welcome back to the second part. And today today it's like still today, but like in the second part we're gonna analyze the hands sent by user Danov CS, and it's gonna start with Iron Hades commenting the first hand. So
Yeah.
let's go.
Hello guys. Do we have a question on this hand?
Yes, we do actually. So we even have a couple of information this time. So IsoRazor is like regulated, opens the standard 18% under the gun MP. He wrote kind of loser. Question is on the river bet, check fold, check call. I tend to believe check fold is the best option here.
Hmm.
Uh, So go ahead.
Okay. So we 3-bet the IsoRazor. Um, I think this is a bit big, in my opinion. Just the sizing, I would make it smaller. Um, Maybe if we make it smaller, still the fish could overcall. But if you make it so big, we just isolate versus really strong hands. And it's more unlikely that this range contains also weak hands, so I would not raise that big. And interesting that he calls, because I would rather think we put him in a shove or folding spot, in my opinion. I don't think that on higher stakes you get a call in this spot ever. Maybe as a trap only. So that's just to pre-flop. So still range could contain also aces kings in my opinion when he calls this size. On the flop, I think yeah, check is standard. We beat nothing. I mean, the hands we have beat, we don't need to fold out, like ace queen is check suited maybe, but I don't think that these hands are in his range, in this size. So what was his range? In my opinion, should be like tens to aces, most likely. Maybe if he's a bad player, ace king. So I think we are beat always. So check back is fine. On that turn, we hit the king, and the small stack also called. I didn't get it. We had a call from a weak fish. So I think we definitely call the turn. But on the river, I think this is a fold. Because we don't beat any value hand. The fish is already in the pot, so this is never this is a protected pot. So the reg will not bluff, because you just can lose versus us. If you, I think this is just never bluff on the river. Having that said, yeah, I think turn is fine, and I would give up the river check fold.
I kind of agree with you. I think the fact is what you said in this hand now.
So just one thing to add, because the fish is so short, I would just bet 120 on a turn and then give up.
Yep,
That's what I would do.
that's exactly my point. What I wanted to say. You pretty much are in the spot like on the turn on the river. Like he basically the reg. You said he's a reg. Mr. Sick. No, Igor Silva is actually just playing for let's call it like for 68 cents of those, which probably rake is gonna take about 20. So he's basically bluffing to win 50 cents because otherwise he can't win river. I mean, if he's jamming 9-8, this kind of is like similar. I think most of you poker players probably played an MTT where you're kind of short, you just get it in, and two players are just like trying to check down to get basically kick you out because they cannot win the pot by bluffing anymore. They can't. So this is like creates. I mean, the fish created here a dynamic where the bluffing Mr. of Igor Silva is just so low that like check fold is standard. So I definitely agree on all other parts with like Iron Hades. Besides like maybe think like betting flop, 1/3 or one like something like 60 cents, or maybe let's call it 80, so you can call a fish jam if whatever it does. I don't know. Just get the equity. But I think like I personally like checking, but I wouldn't blame you if we were bet like 1/3 pot, or like 70 cents to just try to pull out their share of equity. I don't know, fish with I don't know 8-7. I mean, has still like 20. Has still a very decent share of equity against you, given that maybe Igor Silva has in this spot Queen Jack suited. So it's still possible that by folding their share of equity, and you take it down, it still might be okay in my opinion. Also, as I said, like checking is also in my opinion fine.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add? Anything clear?
Just that the 1/3 c-bet. For me, it's just that the pre-flop sizing also important. I think when the raise is so big, that just not so much air hands in the range. So that's why I don't like a 1/3 c-bet in this with this sizing. But that's
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think the fact is that Igor Silva is probably here to lose his range. I don't expect him to fold a lot. That being said, I think a hand like Queen Jack that is already pre-flop is obviously going to call as well the squeeze or like the 3-bet in the spot. I don't know, probably. I think speaking terms, probably 3-bet is probably going to be the correcter term. He's probably gonna have as well. Maybe if he had like I don't know hands like Ace Jack suited or say 9-8 suited, if he wanted to play it like that, which I don't think is like a very big mistake. He's probably implying having the overall position in the spot and having a fish as well. And he might have a lot of like let's call it play good playability hands. So that's like my only thought. Why I don't think c-betting 1/3 is too long. And I mean, whatever JGT has, he can have deuces to I don't know. I thought mistake
yeah.
Queen 5. So maybe it's one of those guys that has to see every flop, and if it doesn't go broke with 7 deuce hit off, he's gonna go. So I mean, it's whatever. That's why I don't think betting 1/3 pot, 1/3 on the flop is and protecting your share of equity, or you could say it otherwise, holding your share of equity is also not wrong. So,
Yeah.
but as we both kind of said it, the key for you guys here is to learn that once the fish is here in, I mean, Igor Silva has a super low because even if he had here 9-8 suited, if he could have or Jack 9 suited, Jack 9 is of course is straight, or maybe let's say Ace 5 of spades. He's just not gonna bluff because he's just gonna win 50 cents from you. If you really want to bluff for 50 cents here, I mean, you're most likely gonna lose to a fish. So it's like just stupid. So yeah, that's about this hand.
Yep.
Let's move on to the next one.
And this is the second one, nines. It's now up to you again.
So he wrote me, the guy is a regular, pretty from the button, approximately 30%. What line would be best? Okay, let's take a look. So we are, where are we? We are big blind. Okay, we're big blind.
Sorry, big blind. Yes.
So she's open raising versus someone who posted blind and the cutoff, and we are cold calling, which I think is fine. You're donking out this flop. Might be good, might be bad. In my opinion, the same hands that you typically get value from here are the same hands that you're gonna see bet. So you kind of like kill straight away just see bet bluffs here. If you think he's gonna raise here pocket kings, might be even the best play. Also, I'm like not too scared. I personally prefer here check raise better than donk, but whatever. I think both lines. I mean, you have a set, so you hardly can do something wrong. And yeah, I mean, when you welcome to the river, well, welcome to the world of guessing. He has some bluffs here. Certainly, he should be bluffing here. King Queen, spades, Ace Queen, Ace King of spades, Ace 3, Ace 4. I mean, all diamonds, Ace 6 should be bluffing this river run out. Whether he is, because he's just wrapping with the river bet, he's basically wrapping Jack 9, maybe Jack 7, but maybe in the suited version, Jack 10, Queen Jack, King Jack of diamonds, and Ace Jack of diamonds, and a hand like maybe Jack 8, but expected to be raised on the turn. So he has some Jack X, but he also has a bluff. If I'm actually gonna play like that, half pot on the turn and got min raised. So I don't like to bet on the river. Um, so yeah, my opinion. If I'm betting river, I'm bet folding. And
Would
if
you check fold then, river?
no, I think I would check call river. Because as I already said, there's a couple of bluffs. The problem again on this stage is that people should be bluffing, but they always very often don't do. So they're under bluffing spots, and so I wouldn't hate as well a check fold on the river. But as I said, I think there are some diamond draws that are could be potentially bluffing river. For example, like a king 10 doesn't beat anything in the river. Could be a top pair, so it's fine. But hence, probably ace three of diamond should probably be bluffing river. But yeah, I mean, I think the hand is over. Once you get raised, I would.
Yeah, I would have something to add. I don't like the donk too much in this spot. Except I know he raises a lot versus donk bets because I don't think we need to protect anything. I prefer check raise in this spot. I'm not afraid if it gets checked back because then he can hit at least, and if he checks back this flop he has nothing anyways, so I like check raise personally. For me the question would be if I check raise flop and bet turn, and then I have I guess just half pot left on the river or so. Depends on the sizing we choose. If we bet the river or if we check call the river then. Because we could still attempt to jam the river if we have just half pot left or so, because we still can get the call from burst, 2 pairs or so. But we could also get value from busted draws, so I'm undecided how I would play the river when I would check raise flop and bet turn. What do you think?
I kind of think, given, I mean, how deep are we? We're pretty much 110 BVs of. It depends. I mean, how much he's the flop. So as I said, I think a lot depends where how much he would see that flop and kind of what's as the bigger, the more I would raise and probably just get it in on a turn, which I think is pretty good because people very often call even draws improperly related to pot odds, which draws a lot of mistakes because they're not on that level.
Okay, so you overbet jam the turn then.
In games that can realize odds, so in my opinion, I would personally like a bet and a larger check raise and probably jam turn. So you get most value out of his over pairs, his 2 pairs, and probably his draws or something where he has to put on the turn, put him in the decision whether he has to decide whether he's gonna press the all-in button or he's gonna fold, something like that. So yeah, that would be kind of my choice.
Okay,
but I think the mistake, in my opinion, is realizing that the river is a spot where if you bet, you have to bet fold because no worse hand is raising. I think that's if you check, you can think about check calling depending on the player. If you think he's never bluffing, then you probably shouldn't be check calling, and then probably even your decision might be even more correct to bet. You have to say you have to realize that the spot isn't actually ugly to a point if you're pretty clear you're gonna get called here by worse, then betting half pot is what you did is the best line. Just you have then to make the disciplined fold, and that's the end of story. If you think he's able to bluff river, then checking is better than betting, and that's the end of story.
Yep. Okay.
Let's move on to the next hand.
I think it's now again me. So we have queen check. Any infos on this hand? Any questions?
No, it's just a note, like he said, again versus fishy in L4 regular, best line on the river.
Okay, so he raises, and so we are 3-way on the flop. Who's the fish? Cut off or
done pot, I guess.
Okay, the button is then the fish.
He's a fishy regular probably. I mean, he's one of those L4 regulars.
Okay. So I think open raise, yeah, is standard. Flop c-bet, yeah, I think it's okay. I think the sizing is also okay. Just a mediocre hand, I would also c-bet. like half pot in this spot, especially to get value from the fish. I think turn is also standard in my opinion. Also like the smaller sizing because we could be beat already by a better queen. I think 2 pair plus would raise at least a turn latest, so I think it's okay. And the river, I'm definitely, if I bet, I'm bet calling, or I'm check calling if I don't want to call a raise. I mean, the thing is that the fish can still raise a weaker hand on the river. I mean a weaker hand, the same hand. We're just calling for a split basically. Are there any things he can bluff? Do we get value from verse? Just let's check it. Maybe this is a spot where I bet like 1/3 and call it off. Or I'm check calling. But I think versus fish check call is bad because you can check back 2 pairs, but will you call always a bet? I think I call like, yeah, bet call like 90. No, that's big. Bet call 60. That's what I would do. 60 euros. 60 cent euros.
Not pretty much mostly agree with you. I kind of like turn can be as well check call and the smaller bet like you did, so that's just purely exploitative. I like kind of their sizing. I think like in my opinion the river is like to a certain point like a bit of a mistake. Taking a look like pre-flop, I think their sizing is just way too big. To of course bet call. Because the bigger your sizing, the more people jam there, the more not frequency they have. It's just like that. So if I would staying like on my limits or like anything higher above than 100 people have, they're never ever king jack off, especially like they could have suited, but that's like 3 combos, so it's just very little. Now, do they have on NL4? Probably yes, which means we should be even more inclined to probably just bet fold river instead of like calling for a chop, because given your huge bet size, I don't expect them people to jam for another $2 or like sorry 2 euros to jam river just to get you off a split. I don't think they're doing that. So this is a typical spot where I agree with Iron Hades. I think I would bet 55, I don't know, so 60 cents on the river and call it off, because then you kind of like look like a block bet as well from you. That's how probably a micro stakes player is gonna read that. It's block bet, and you could be value betting here a set. I don't know, whatever, king queen, ace queen maybe, block bet with kings or aces maybe, whatever, and then he might invent himself with, I don't know, a king 10, he might invent himself a raise. But this way you just bet like very large and he just then goes all in instead of calling. Also you can have as well king jack, which means I don't know how much he thinks about it. It's just like he can have even pre-flop king jack, he can have, so it's just like, I mean, to me this looks like nuts on the river. So I might be wrong, and I don't think once I'm betting, I don't think I should be bet folding, because then I'm probably going to be bet folding too much, but it's just like a gross spot with that size. The fact is, if he's more fishy, I'm probably more inclined to call for a chop. If he's more nitty, I'm probably less inclined to call for a chop. So that's the only advice I can give you about this hand, in my opinion.
I think that the key in the hand is also the sizing, because if you plan on bet folding, your sizing is way too big. Because what worse hand will call a 2/3 or a 3/4 bet. I mean, not even 2 pair feels happy, and I think 2 pair can also fold even if it's fish. For this sizing, so yeah, as I said, I rather like for the reasons Hans said, like a 1/3 bet and call it off, because then you can turn weaker hands in a bluff. Or I just bet fold a half pot if I decide to bet and fold. But you should be aware. You should know if you can bet fold for this sizing, or if you want bet call, and you should know before you bet. So
that's the kind of thing that's like you can guys do a lot off table, is actually work on your planning the hand somewhat. Like that's what you can do, and like, you know, this card is gonna come, and based on the player, I'm gonna be bet folding, so you don't find yourself like in this like, oh fuck, I don't know what to do. So that's the kind of thing you guys can work post at home, like post flop. So let's move on.
to the next. So is it me or you now? You. It's you.
It's me, and you're gonna have the last one.
Yep.
So let me just take a look what he wrote. He wrote about this hand. This is a whale, 75% c-bet fold to 90% c-bet turn. What line to take?
How much he folds on a turn?
But no, wait. He's 75 flop, c-bet flop, and 90% c-bet turn.
Oh, okay.
Okay, correct. So he's basically barreling always.
Yeah, all hands.
Okay, so let's take a look. He's Avi top, he limps. Another guy limps. It's a limping fest. And we, from the big blind, go ahead and make it. Okay, this is an 04, so we'll make it 6 pp, which I think is okay. And the whale call. Of course, we're not too worried about that anyway. You decide to check flop, and you go ahead. And he goes ahead and bets 12, and you go for a check raise. Well, that's first of all a little bit like contradictory, because you allow him to bet, then you go ahead for check raise. You're just not gonna make fold anything that would not fold to a small c bet. So I just don't get it. I mean, you could make the check raise. It's not like the end of the world. It's just like, in my opinion, 1/3 pot. You pretty much get the same value from the hands that folded here, and don't build a huge pot against the player whose biggest issue is like the fold button. So in my opinion, I would go ahead and bet one flop very small, something like, I don't know, 16, maybe get a call from his 8-5, whatever he has there. Once you check raise flop, you followed up with the turn bet, which I think is okay. I mean, maybe just to make him fold out, I don't know, Jack 10. And I also think check call wouldn't be the worst. So you got bluff. Maybe if he's one of those, whenever you check, he bets turn, then you could play check push on the turn. It wouldn't also be the worst play if he's kind of like one of those guys who's betting fives, and then you jam, and then he's like, oh fuck, I just have to fold. So I personally, you can do a lot of lines here. Just keep in mind, in my opinion, like you didn't bluff river, which I think is okay. You might even have a bit small bit of showdown value against these weaker diamond draws on the turn that follow at the flop. Just keep in mind, it's like a spot where you're playing against a player whose biggest problem is folding. So what you should be doing is like making 10 value bets and maybe trying to extract value on his bluffing range according to him. So that's why I wouldn't mind like bet 1/3 flop, something like that. Try to make him fold maybe 3-4, which still has, okay, not 3-4, but let's make it 4-5, which still has some sort of equity in the hand. And if you're still deciding to float with King 8, well, he's probably gonna do it. I'm gonna check on this turn. I'm gonna check call his bluff and expect that he's not bluffing. I'm gonna bluff river, and if I miss river, I'm just probably gonna donk or like go for a check raise depending on the whale. But I mean, that's what I would do with Ace 3, which I would consider against the whale's range. A 10 value bet, and the bluff catcher on the turn, probably a fold on the river. But like if I hit a donk, that's what I would do.
I personally agree with the first part when you say you bet small yourself and check call the turn, because most likely he will also size small on the turn or even check back a queen or like a third pair hand, and then you get free equity. You can realize your equity up to the river. I totally don't like the check raise on the flop, because I mean, what do you rep? You wouldn't check raise a queen even versus the fish. You just rep like queens or like 7x. And even the fish will realize that you don't check raise queen x here. I think even if it's the worst donk, in my opinion.
Don't bet on it. Don't bet on it. They always find excuse.
Yeah, and mainly what Hans says. This is I think that the most thing you learn out of this hand. Don't bluff the biggest fish that will never find the fold button. I mean, especially on a board where it's a high card and two low cards you don't trap. And I mean, if it's like a low connected board, I like it because then you can barrel him off a weaker pair on later streets when overcards can come. But on this board, I don't like the board structure to check raise and then bet turn and make even the pot bigger. And you know he will most likely not fold the turn. He will still call. Maybe he even calls like fours on the turn, and you just give him all his money. I don't like the hand overall how it is played, to be honest. Not on this board.
Yeah, as I said, I don't think it's like the worst ever like check raise here, but it's like unnecessary. It's like whatever. For example, just let's turn it around. You just check call flop instead, and you would still, if you had like this 4-5 that I mentioned earlier, you might continue like bluffing that on the turn, and you peel just more equity, and then he might check river, and you still got even more, let's call it value out of his bluffing range instead of like check raising flop, and then you're like kind of going somewhat huge, and just because somebody's betting really small shouldn't be inclining you to just go ahead and just randomly raise like large. He's weak. I mean, that's the kind of whale type of play. I mean, whale can have as well as 7 nicks. I mean, whenever they try to get tricky, they very often have it. I mean, they have it in a more higher frequency. So I expect the whale as well to bet 12 with the 7 because he doesn't know how to extract value. So he can have anything here. So that's why I'm just like, you want to check call flop, or as I said, bet small. And on the turn, like, you could check raise all in. It wouldn't be like the worst ever if you would check calls flop and now you're thinking about check down turn. It's just like, again, a little bit like unnecessary in my opinion. Just keep on check calling and see what the river brings on. As I said, multiple options. Just keep in mind he doesn't like to fold, so very often what bets is probably going to call you as well, and you're going to see a lot of hero calls. For example, if you check shove turn, wouldn't be the first whale to bet pocket fives on the turn and call it a shove. Some of them might fold, others might not. Probably also depending how much they're attached to the money. But as I said, in my opinion, just check calling flop, check calling turn, or like betting small turn, betting small flop, and check calling turn is just like, in my opinion, the best line.
Yeah, with that part I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so then the last hand.
Your turn. So we have a bit of sentence. By the way, regarding to the other hand, I think it was actually very good to actually check call flop, check call turn, because the guys seems to be always betting, so I do like them even more check calling. So actually I like whatever bet. I think betting small flop, but turn is always a check call in my opinion. Moving on to the next hand, I think it's he's writing versus a pretty tight post flop regular 75% c-bet flop. What is the best line here? Obviously we're playing against the c-bet nets. Let's see what.
Okay, let's see what we find out. So we again 3-way on the flop, and a tight player decides to. Who is the open raiser? So the tight regular is the Phil Georgiev. Is the cutoff? Is this right?
No, that's the one who's big sinus.
This is so the overcaller. The button is the tight drag. And he decides to bet into 2 people on a very connected board, and he pots it. So first of all, I think a guy like this is normally not bluffing, never ever. I think the worst hand he can have even is like ace queen of hearts, but I think that's also unlikely. I think he's more inclined to bet in smaller, maybe even check back, because doesn't want to call off a raise on this board. Not quite sure about this, but I think this is most of the time a really strong hand, and I see there's 0 bluffs in it, especially when the pot is 3-way, so you call what is okay, because looks like he's more he's on a non-drawy hand. On the turn, honestly, I think you can find the fold button, because when he pots, you just have to count the odds first. I think 1 out of 4 times you will hit the flush on the river, so he pots, and this could go roughly okay. But the thing is, does he pay you off when the flush hits? And if he's a good reg, he will never pay you off on the river, so he can fold. And if he's a bad reg, then you could find a call and then hope he bets the river, but still, I think this does not happen often enough, so I think for me this is a fold on the turn. I mean, we still have like, what do we have? We have the 9, so we have also straight outs. I guess that's, what is it? Yeah, for pot bet we still need 33% equity. That's really close. It just depends on the reg still. I mean, equity wise, we don't have, I think we have like 30% or so. We still need kind of a bet from the reg. That's my main problem. I still think it's pretty close with this hand. Fold a normal flush. Maybe you can call the turn and then give up, but I would fold the turn with a pot bet.
I'm like more station than you,
Okay.
just because of the simple belief that I just played the. I think on the flop it's it's a Omaha. You could play an Omaha type of play, just play your equity, which is so good on the flop. You can get it in here against any hand you can think about, mostly. So you can have this Omaha type of thinking, playing your equity instead of your hand strength.
Yeah, I didn't get on the flop that we have also like a pair plus an straighter plus a flush. So I agree with we get it in on the flop also. No.
You can try to get it in, but the point is like if you just want to get it in, I mean it's with this hand you can't do anything bad. You can just try to raise the limit and play like Omaha high variance type of thing. Just playing your equity, and which means very often you're gonna get it in on the flop. He's gonna contribute you a limb, and well, let it be the variance. If you don't like playing Omaha, probably because you don't like the swings, which means you probably can go ahead and flat. And I still think turn, as Johan said, is already a bit close because you're actually drawing to very thin, to pretty obvious draws versus pot size bet. So he has to be one of those like on the river if the flush comes. He has to be those putting you on king queen, or if the straight comes, he has to put you on a flush. So the fact is that your straight is like the 4 straight is like super obvious, and that's why it's gonna be a bit tougher. But for example, if the deuce wouldn't be no hearts, he might even call you. It's like NL4 people are far from being disciplined, so yeah, I think if he has a set here, he's gonna fold the river, and that's why I'm pretty much putting him on. I mean, maybe Jack 10, but mostly what I'm expecting here are sets. He's entirely what pot range the bets flop pot, and maybe 9-7. I don't know. I don't think it's just like if he's nitty. I don't think he has pre-flop 9-7 and queen 9, so I think you have actually more straights than him. But that doesn't here matter too much. It's just like he sees 2 pair are set here and probably just bets pot. So in my opinion, to learn from this, in my opinion, you can call turn. That's the first thing. And in my opinion, learn whether you're the type of player who likes going ahead and gambling a bit. I mean, gambling, I understand just variance in general. If you like variance, you can just raise you on the flop. He's probably also not going to fold king queen cards, or like a combo draw that he decided to play this weird way, but whatever. So in my opinion, you can let's go the more swingy side, or you can choose just to play it careful as you did, which I personally kind of like because I don't expect ever to get bluffed on the river after twice call flop, fold turn, and fold river, because I don't think he's bluffing here. If he's bluffing like 2% of the time, which is just super low, and yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen very often, and that's why I do like your line here, which you took.
Just one thing to add to the turn. If he's just, let's say, like €3 left on the turn and he pulls, then you can fold because you don't get the odds. Even if you hit, then you don't. You make a minus EV call on the turn. It's always important to know that he has enough money left you can get on the river. So, that's just what I wanted to add.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I think it's very crucial because he has more three-quarter spot left on the river, which means that once you hit, you can, most of the time I believe, will get very decently paid. But I mean, probably the case is like if he has a smaller stack than 100 BB, like you shouldn't be playing the hand.
You should get it in on the flop then, yeah.
Trying to get it in on the flop. So playing passive here is the only case if the player is like 100 BB and over, so you can call most turn bets. So and still get on the river with him having like a sizable stack behind him, so the draw is kind of alive. But if he's here having 60 BB, you probably shouldn't be calling a pot size bet on the flop. It's like there's no way. Just raise it in, play. Even if you don't like variance, just get it in. And, it's never too bad. So that was it, guys.
Okay, yeah.
I enjoyed it. Thanks, Iron Hates, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And my question to you guys, I would really appreciate feedback. Do you like this dual commentary on the hand? Do you like the format? Please feel free to leave comments, and see you guys in some of my future videos. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.